Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. We are waking the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. Do y'all know that women are more likely to be judged for their leadership style no matter how effective they are? Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of one of our newest books. This one is called We Lead, and this is volume 2 of We Lead, Building Connection, Community, and Collaboration for Women in Business. Here's We Lead volume 1, you guys, and We Lead 2. I am just as excited about. I have some pretty powerful leaders in my Zoom room today. Let me tell you about them. Aubrey Edwards is the CEO of Bright Beginning Children's Learning Center and brings 25 years of experience in early education. Erin Harrigan is here. She's a Christian speaker, podcast host, and biblical business coach for high-achieving Christian women in business and the boardroom. I've got Megan Vaughn with me. She's a certified cheese professional. Hear that again, you guys, a certified cheese professional. Oh my gosh. And is the owner of and founder of Vaughn Cheese Counter and Bar in North Beach, Maryland, a full service restaurant focused on genuine hospitality and specializing in American artisan cheeses. Valerie Anayas is the founder of A-Team Family Law, where she focuses her practice on family-related matters such as divorce, custody, adoption, and real estate and estate planning. Ladies, welcome. I think that a huge thank you first goes to your lead author, AliceAnne Loftus. And I want to say thanks to AliceAnne for not only bringing this stellar author cast together a second time for this beautiful topic, but really just for her passion for this mission and everything that she's done with her leading lady ambassadors, the business coaching, and really community building that she has done. I have been honored to be a part of that, AliceAnne, and much, much gratitude to you. I'm really, really excited to be doing this second book in the series. So, Aubrey, you're going to start the party off today. Tell me a little bit of the why behind your chapter.
So my chapter is about finding or using my values to find my passion. And I dipped my toe into a variety of fields. And it wasn't until I found my people, my person, that I felt fulfilled. So I'm walking you through the very beginning, back when I started, when I was 16 years old, and my dad handed me a penny saver that the local preschool was hiring. And I started there, and I loved working with children, but it just did not fill my cup. And I left there and tried office work and retail and all of that. And I came back to try it again, and I found my person, that we had very similar values, we had very similar passions, and that is what has kept me in this field and working alongside this person for now over 20 years.
That's a lot. That's amazing. Share a little bit about the strategy that you're helping people with in the book.
So it's talking about your values, and we do our strategy day every year, sometimes every 6 months. Values can sometimes change. Overall, our business values have stayed the same, and mine align about 99%. My personal values align with the business values. And we also take in consideration the team's values. So we talk to the employees about their values. And it's so helpful to know everyone's values and how they work in their personal lives. So I'm walking you through how to do that. So, like I said, yearly, at least yearly, you should be revisiting your values.
Why would they change? Give us an example.
Over the last several years, my values have changed a little bit. I feel like I have stepped into a more leadership professional role, and mine have kind of pivot just a little bit as I'm, as far as like professional development, leadership, that type of learning. So it's shifted a little bit in the last couple of years. It could be a change of business or a change of in your role or, something happened in your life. Sometimes it can change.
Yes, for sure. I think a lot about the healing journey and just being a much different person than I was a
Right.
year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's like, okay, maybe it's okay that my values have changed too, right? So like I appreciate you talking about that because I want to give people permission to change their mind and fine
Yes.
tune a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Aubrey, thank you. Not just for saying yes to this project, but for doing what you did and putting your heart and soul onto those pages. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Erin, how about you? Tell us a little about the why of your chapter.
The why of my chapter is I don't see enough conversations about how relationships change as we grow. In particular, not not just family relationships, but for women, I don't think we talk enough about how our close friendships that we thought might be lifetime friendships really end up being reason or season friendships. This chapter also turned out to be, it's a very personal chapter for me. I talk about the loss of a 34-year friendship, and it was very healing for me to write it, and also healing for my daughter, because the friendship that I mainly speak of is a close friendship for her because it's her godmother.
It's interesting that we're following what we said with Aubrey into this, like things can change, like
Yeah.
and you need to reevaluate. But I so resonated with your chapter because this happened to me early on. Gosh, even before the business I'm running now, and the loss
Mm.
felt really intense, worse than even some deaths I had experienced. Like, what is that? What do you want to tell people about that?
Yeah. Just piggybacking on what Aubrey said, as you begin to grow, the things you value, the things you focus on begin to change. And I think that, we assume that some of the friendships or relationships that we have are very equal, right? And so I care for you as you go through changes, and you care for me as I go through changes. And when that doesn't happen, it's not just a level of disappointment. It's even, I would say, somehow deeper than a rejection. I have had moments in the one friendship where I wouldn't say it's as painful as when I lost my mother, but it was the death of something that I thought I would always have. And that loss is profound. And then I found myself sort of chasing after something that, now looking back, I could see that the Lord meant for me to let go of. And so that pain can be debilitating in some ways. It can make us question our values. It can make us question the assignment that we know we've been given and the focus that we have, in such a way that I think sometimes it can hold us back from the great things that we were made to do.
Oh, the dance and letting go when you know everything is for you and
Yes.
not happening to, right. It's like, but it's okay to feel a little bit of that heartache first, right?
Yeah.
Where, yeah, we're
Yeah.
not meant to push through it. Just, it
No.
means a lot. Um, can you tell me a little bit more about what your friendships have meant to you in terms of you being a business owner?
Mm. I was always the person who only took close friendships with me. When I left high school, I was done with high school. When I left college, I was sort of done with college, right? I'm sort of always looking forward, and not because I don't believe that those relationships are meaningful, but because I'm moving into a new season of life, etc. And friendships have meant so much as I've gone through the changes in my business, going from even from corporate to transitioning to an entrepreneur 12 years ago. and then transitioning from one business into a completely different business, they provide an anchor. And when that anchor is uprooted, it can feel like, although I'm sailing in the right direction, I'm still off kilter. I'm not quite feeling the confidence and the steady hand, because those friendships, those relationships I thought would be right beside me aren't anymore. And so it's sort of like you're driving forward, but you keep looking backwards because you're like, but come with me. I want you to come with me. So it's that feeling of sort of being untethered.
Mm. This is a really interesting thing to think about. I was taking a walk in the neighborhood the other day, and there is a mailbox where the people have put their last name on it. And the last name happens to be the last name of my high school BFF. And so and I walk by it all the time, but this weekend I thought to myself, I wonder if they're on Facebook, or I wonder if I can Google them. And then I very quickly said, nah, you're not going back there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Meant for a season.
Yes.
And that's okay. Erin, thank you. Thank you for being back for this book, and for pouring your heart and soul onto those pages. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Megan, you are up next. Tell us everything about your why.
Yeah. For me, my why of my chapter was all about forcing yourself to take the time to reevaluate what you're doing, to not feel like what you have been doing, despite how good you are at it, is so precious that you shouldn't make changes. I had been thriving in my former job, in large part because of everyone, including myself, tapping into this high functioning anxiety. I could tackle incredibly long to-do lists and was excellent at my job, and I was loving it. But the premature birth of my daughter changed everything. It rattled my world and made me reevaluate what I was doing and what the point was. And by forcing myself to take the time to really look at my passions and what I wanted, I ended up doing complete 360 and completely changing my direction. And I know that I wouldn't be as happy and content and fulfilled now if I hadn't have made that change.
It's interesting, the theme that we have going on here today so far, right? And I love it, because in those sometimes horrible events is an opportunity. What do you want to tell people about being aware or awake to those opportunities?
So in this case, the birth of my daughter, surprising everybody far too early, was my wake-up call. I can remember, literally sitting in the NICU, unable to hold my daughter. And my work is calling me, asking me for an update on something. And the part of me, the high functioning anxiety part of me, was saying, like, I need to reply. I need to get back. I need to take care of this, because this is my job and I love my job. But then you've got this voice in the back of your head saying, wait, this isn't right. This can't be it. And I did end up going back to my job, and after everyone was all good, but it then became the perfect jumping point for starting discussions to what my next step was going to be. And in that case, it was transitioning to open my own business, and being able to really listen and reflect and think in those times to enact change was critical.
Yeah, aiming toward a changed kind of life. Why too? You had such an intense thing happen that I think would change the whole rest of your life. Why don't we prioritize until we are woken up like that? So I hope people listening are like, oh yeah, and they can do it before the thing happens, right?
Yeah.
like, I know, everything, like we said with Aaron, everything is for us. It's all divine timing. Right?
It's so easy when you are being told in your work all the time how spectacular you're doing to think, yep, I'm doing the right thing. This is the right track. This is the right path, because everyone's telling you you're doing a great job, right?
Yeah.
But when you have some exterior force that jolts you, that isn't the one looking at your track record and saying, hey, you're doing so great. Hey, keep it up, right? When something, you sometimes need something else in your life to come and just get rid of the track completely. So you have to like look up and say, all right, where do I want this track to go? Because if you didn't listen to that, you would just keep following it.
No doubt. I love that, Megan. Thank you. Thanks for being here today and sharing your story and being vulnerable. All of you really did that so brilliantly. Val, your turn. Tell us about your amazing why for this chapter.
So for me, I took the approach of I was analyzing the way I felt from law school through my first job through opening my business. And for me, it was this balance of thinking I'm the super unique situation. Nobody knows what I feel like. Nobody's ever been in this situation feeling like a fish out of water, like I didn't belong. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. I didn't think like everybody else did. And then in each step of the way, realizing number one, I was absolutely not alone. There was plenty of people that felt the same way I did. And so finding that community to see you're not alone, you have support and you can lean on them, and learning how to find what those people are. Because I often was in a position where I felt that I had that. Oh, well, I got this great job. Everybody's saying, you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. And meanwhile, the whole time feeling, but I'm not being me. I'm not using my voice. I'm not advocating the way that I want to, but everybody's telling me it's good. You're doing good. You're doing well. This is great. Keep it up. And just, it didn't match what I felt. And then that fear of, okay, well, am I thinking wrong? Am I doing it wrong if I want to do it this way or look this way or act this way? And so whether it was from entering law school and 21 years old to getting that first job to starting my very first practice, and still thinking that because outwardly I was told it was the right thing, I'm doing okay, but also with a great sense of manipulation. You're doing okay as long as you fit this role. You're okay so long as you hold this belief. And at some point, and I mentioned this in my chapter, it was just like, well, for what? Why am I doing that? I don't feel good. It's not authentic to me. And as it turns out, I'm not the only one that feels that way. And so what if I just did me? What would that look like? And I did that when I started my current firm. I said, I'm just going to do me and we'll see what happens. And more successful because I'm being me and it's coming through that way. And it took 10 years for me to figure out that being me was enough, that my thoughts, my values were good. And I didn't need to adapt and dress a certain way and talk a certain way and act a certain way. Maybe I needed to shed the New York accent just a little bit. But aside from that, I didn't need to change me to fit this field that maybe didn't feel like me. I didn't need to do that. And so that's the why. That was my chapter.
Oh, this topic. So think about this for a second. And Megan was saying it too. The people are saying, you're good. You're doing good. It's all looking good, people. And right there is the way they put the box around you. And I'm just like, if we wake up a few people to this from this interview, this will be worth the whole thing. Because, and then what if I was just me? Ooh, like, then what would they say? Would they say it's bad or wrong? That's a big question mark. And if we can just sit and question everything, it would be a really good idea about how we were put in those boxes and why did we stay so long? What was the fear for you?
Well, for me, it was very much my sexuality, right? It was very much who I was. I chose this first job, which was such a tremendous learning experience and taught me what kind of law I wanted to practice. And I felt so lucky that I was so young and I was able to do this. And I felt like, well, I'm doing the rare thing, so I just have to deal with everything else. But when everybody else was able to talk about their families and what they did that weekend, but I was strictly prohibited from doing that, it said, well, why would I do that? That just felt so inauthentic that I was, for 4 years, really thinking, well, if you do that, you won't have the luck that you have right now. And so at some point, me conflicted with what I was doing. And that was not something I could sustain. So that was the fear. What if I was me? And so all the luck that I perceived to have for masking in this way, what if that went away? And I'm not good enough to fill it. That was my fear.
And I love that you came out on the other side of that even more successful. So that's like
Right.
huge congratulations. And that is what happens when we dive into all of who we are, right? It is what
Yep.
happens, but we're
Mhm.
not so sure.
Yeah, it's true.
Valerie, thank you so much for being here and for sharing in this book.
Yeah.
All four of you, you know, it's one thing to share those vulnerable stories, and I gave you that challenge to do that. You all did it brilliantly. But we have this second practice section in the book where our readers are going to learn your master teachings. Like, this is badass, y'all. And these people have been around a minute and are offering some valuable tools, strategies, practices that help them get to the place that they are now, which is amazing. So I'm so excited, and thank you all so much for your generosity in that practice section. So let's keep chatting about this. Next question is going to be for Erin first. So part of leadership, I think, is self-mastery. We just talked about these master teachings that y'all are putting in this book. What is something in your timeline that you've worked on in yourself that helped you become a leader? What did you have to master in yourself?
What I have had to master in myself is my tendency to be self-reliant, that it's all up to me and only I can do it. And if I can't do it, then there must be something wrong with me. A lot of women struggle with, they don't ask for help, right? So maybe that could be what did I need to outsource? But even bigger, it's the lie that A, you have to do it all by yourself, and B, if you can't, then there must be something wrong with you. You must be a failure. And I think as women in today's world, like, we are expected to work at a certain level. I love what Megan talked about high functioning anxiety. Like, I check all of those boxes, and mastering that has taken great surrender. I mean, certainly in my belief system, surrender to the Lord, but also knowing what to let go of, what to hold on to, when to say yes, when to say no, because I will say yes to everything because I know I can get it done. But just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I love this one. I highly resonate. And any of you had to work on that ask for help thing besides me and Erin? Yeah, just a little bit, right? And once upon a time, I don't know where I got taught that success meant I did it all by myself. Like, it is completely the opposite. So as soon as I did the 180 and started asking for help and bringing that team on board and the community on board, like, things got very interesting. I love that, Erin. Thank you. Megan, how about you? What's another thing that you had to master in yourself?
I think that I think that for me, very much akin to what really everyone here is saying, but definitely what Erin just said, is the idea of like doing it all yourself. But for me, it's it was a big change in needing to not be afraid to harness my passions and the things that I loved as the thing that I could do in the future, finding ways to make the things that I loved be the thing that I would do for my work. That was a big change. I had always worked in restaurants from the time I was 14, and I was good at it. But how can I change that to have my passions serve productivity rather than just my anxiety serving it? And that was a big learning checkpoint, and it took a few years of work to actively get to be doing what I wanted to do. But still every day I'm looking at myself and looking at what I do and say, all right, how can this be tweaked? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it well? And of course, like, working in restaurants, you can't do everything. And it's really, really, really easy for me to look at my to-do list and be like, oh, I'll just take care of that. I'll just take care of that. I'll just take care of that. But you can't, you can't do it. You will ultimately fail if you try to do everything, or things won't be done well. But two, if you're trying to do that, you're not trusting in the people that you've surrounded yourself with. And if you're doing your job right, you're surrounding yourself with people who are awesome and who in many cases are better at things than you. So trust in them to do things with you. You can learn from them that way, but then ultimately the things all get done better too. So it's this balancing point of listening to yourself, listening to your passions, and trusting the people that you surround yourself with.
Oh, you guys, these are such golden nuggets of wisdom. I'm going to summarize Megan's with a quote that I wrote down. How can my passions serve my productivity? I loved that line, Megan. Thank you. Valerie, how about you? What's something in yourself that you've had to master that helped you become more of a leader?
For me, it was overcoming my imposter syndrome. So I was so reliant on other people validating that what I was thinking was right, or that what I was doing was correct, or if I have a case or I want to do this with the business, well, is that a good idea? Should I do it that way? And for me, A, I identified my values, and B, learned that what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, whatever my ideas are also good. And I don't need somebody to okay them to make them okay. And that, I think, is what changed so much for me, is that I learned how to find my voice, but not just find it, trust it. And so if a client was coming or a situation was coming to me, if somebody else said, no, that's normal, it's okay, but I don't feel that, I trust that now, versus the okay or the seal of approval that somebody else is giving me that doesn't maybe share my values or doesn't see it from my perspective, or whatever the case may be. And I think one of the beautiful things of having your own business is you get to do that. And so when I had my own business and I was still relying on other people, but it's my business, it felt there was a disconnect. And once I recognized and learned, really in this second practice that I started, that this is my voice and my instincts and my values. And as long as I can trust and stay in them, I'm going to be much more successful than trusting and staying in somebody else's and trying to make that mold somehow fit me when it just doesn't.
Oh my gosh, yes. All of you have touched on ways that people do this game until they learn better, until they know better. And somebody said it earlier, like these things will lead directly to failure. And I would add burnout if you're not careful. And so, but you're all talking about getting over whatever that fear was to do it your way. And I love that you're encouraging people on that journey. Aubrey, what do you want to add in terms of this? What have you had to master in yourself?
Over the last year, we kind of really defined our roles in my business, where I am the CEO and the owner really stepped back. And while she stepped back, It was actually kind of lonely. So finding the people, like kind of Al said, but using them, as like a sounding board, as long as they were solution focused too, problem solvers, like really finding that community as I stepped into this leadership role, I felt was really successful. I found my own coach. I listened to professionals, and then I decided what was best for the company. Nobody else, like Val was saying, outside of that, was the decision maker for me. But finding those people were really helpful for me, and that kind of goes back to my why. Is I found that person, but then as we define those roles and she stepped back and trusted me, I wanted to make sure that those values were carried out, but also having people in my corner cheering me on.
Awesome. And you ESP'd my next question, which I will continue this conversation so brilliantly. Okay, I'm gonna move to Megan first for this. And Aubrey did it so well. She talked about the community. I want to know what the most important thing you want to share about community or collaboration. Like, pick one most important thing. And so that sounding board, Aubrey, that was a brilliant way to segue into this question. But Megan, go for it.
For me, it's 1,000% about the community. I consider community in lots of different veins. So I speak at my work now all the time about the community of my team, my staff. We are an incredible group of humans, and that's because we have formed this community of people who are incredibly passionate about life, about being a good human, and we teach everything else. But I can't teach you to be a good human. So we find this community of employees in this case, and I'm one of them. You just got to be a good human. We'll teach everything else. But then there's the community of, in our case, naturally, the farmers. I'm working with these incredibly passionate and talented farmers who make spectacular products. But they are a community as well, and we support them and they support us. The community of our neighborhood, where we live, and of our guests generally, whether they are local to the restaurant or whether we're shipping to them, like having people who foundationally believe the same things that your business does, they will become the repeat people over and over and over again because they resonate with what you're doing. All the way up through like our people who deliver us boxes every day, our suppliers and things that like they are community too, and you got to take care of all of them. And by taking care of all the people that you are surrounded by, they will take care of you.
I love it. Thank you. Valerie, how about you? Most important thing you want people to know about either community or collaboration?
I mean, this is one of the skills that I specifically talked about in my chapter, because I think there is a difference between finding, I thought I belonged to a community. I thought I have all these people, we're all doing the same thing, we all want to do the same thing. That's not community, is just existing in the same space, but it's about building those relationships. And for me, a community are people that offer guidance, encouragement, a sense of belonging, not the check mark, not the stamp, not the seal of approval, but they're going to encourage you, they're going to push you, they're going to question, they're going to support. And whether that's with your family or in your professional community or in your friendships or wherever the case may be, I think finding that and knowing when they're there to be beneficial to you versus they shouldn't take something away from you. And I think that's a really hard thing to figure out, is, am I belonging to a place where I'm not being fed or I'm being hurt in some way? And, sort of like what Megan said, just be a good human. You don't have to know what I do to support me or be part of my team, but you could be a good human. And if we're both good humans, we could work together. And, kind of like Aubrey too, with this, if you're going to be just complaining or saying all the things wrong and not trying to find a solution or being proactive, That's a drain. That's not being part of a community. And so for me, finding that those people and that central, in this case, it was the legal community, but this also applied to my personal life as well. You know, if we can't all stand by the same values and support and lift each other, that's not community. And inherent in community, when you do support and lift each other, I think that's when you can get to collaboration also. And if you don't have that, it's very isolating. It's very isolating. And I think that often tends, that's when we start to, kind of go back into our hidey hole. And that community can help bring us out and let us shine.
I mean, the things you guys are talking about in terms of building that kind of community, when you move to collaborating, there's big superpowered energy when you build the foundation like everyone is sharing today. It's such a powerful thing. Back to you, Aubrey. And you talked first about finding that person as a sounding board, but I know you have more about this. What's the most important thing you want people to know about building community or collaborating?
I always say to build that community is to build that trust first. We worked really, really hard building that trust, and we've had the long lasting relationships. And it started with that trust piece, for the community that I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's foundational also. When you have it, it feels um, like a small miracle. And part of me just wants to say it's sometimes sad that so often trust isn't there, or it gets broken, or you feel betrayed, or I know. But when you find it, it's like, oh yeah, this is it. This is, and then there's a good feeling to that. All right, Erin, what is the most important thing you want to tell people about community or collaboration?
Yeah, I think everything about community that I would say has been said, which that's why this is a community. Collaboration to me, there's so much focus in the world on competition or strife or how we believe so differently, et cetera. And very often I will say to clients, this is vastly different than anyone else is going to tell you. But if you know what you've been made to do, like Megan said about, how can I turn what I love and my passions into doing what I do? And, like Val said, like finding the place where she can do what she is so good at, what's her zone of genius, and running her business the way she runs it. There is no competition. Where we get stuck in collaboration, I believe, is that we're afraid to collaborate with people who do similar things or who serve similar audiences. And it is my belief, and I've seen it time and time again in real life, that who you're made to serve can only hear from you. They can't hear from these other people. And so you've got to trust that your gifts, your talents are needed in the world, or else you wouldn't have them. And that it's okay to collaborate, even with the people that, number one, you might think are competition, but even people who don't believe necessarily some of the same things that you believe. I mean, you and I, Laura, have had incredible collaborations, right? And we believed some different things. But we've got to be willing to collaborate, because what I find in the world is that there is no willingness to collaborate. There is in some worlds, not everywhere. And until we start to collaborate, like, how can we make the world a better place? How can we be able to effectively serve the way that and the people that were made to serve? And collaboration is hard for me because I like to do it myself. And so letting go of the self-reliance has led to some great collaborations, and remembering that you really don't have competition. No one can serve your audience the way you were made to serve them. They just can't. But sometimes you also need others to come alongside you and to bring another layer of value to your audience.
Yeah, fully agree. I love that. It also sometimes gets rid of people's imposter syndrome, you guys, because everything has been said, done before, but not by you. So when you put your unique voice to things, then I think that's part of what Erin's talking about. Then the people they're meant to hear your message in exactly the way only you can give it. So get rid of that imposter syndrome today if you don't do anything else, right? Okay, I got one more rapid fire question for all of you. I love this question. I could have come up with a bazillion answers, but I'm going to challenge each of you to give me a one sentence answer, like one thing. And I'm going to ask it to myself first. So it goes something like, if you could give the younger self who started your business some advice, what would you tell yourself? And mine goes something like, Laura, believe in and invest in yourself sooner. Take the risks sooner. And I'm going to leave it right there. Valerie, what's your version of this? What would you tell the person who started your business to help them out?
You're worthy. Your
Mm,
voice matters. You're worthy.
another really good one. Yes. Aubrey, how about you? What would you tell yourself?
I'd say don't be afraid. Just keep your focus on what you love and don't be afraid.
Erin, what would you tell yourself?
There's only one you, so stop looking left and right and comparing yourself to the people that you think are further ahead than and who are where you think you want to be.
Love it. Megan?
You do not need to stay the person that you think you are right now.
I love that. You get to change, you get to transform, you get to discover yourself over and over if you need to, right? To all of you today, authors, thank you so much for what you do in the world. And thank you for being here today to share it with everyone. Listeners, this book, it's going to be over on Amazon, ready for your purchase. So we hope you hop over and grab your copy of We Lead. This is volume 2, Building Connection, Community, and Collaboration for Women in Business. And remember that you can join us for a book launch party that we're having November 22nd, 10 a.m. Eastern. I've got some information down below about the book launch party. Lastly, today, everyone, remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. It is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.